Yeah, I think ML touched on it, that since you're going to be hearing about the proposals or the different topics, maybe by looking at them to understand what's going to happen so you can visualize how you might, put your responses together for this. I guess we should have made it in bigger letters is the first thing we should have done. But your pages are going to be limited to 20 pages. Your proposals are going to be 20 pages. And I'll go back through this in a little more detail later, but when they come in, they're going to be evaluated by basically two people and a chairperson. I think I touch on that next. But they're going to be evaluated in three areas, and this is laid out in the rules we talk about how they're going to be evaluated. Technical merit is 40%, and so we actually have a guide for evaluators so that they're at least playing by the same rules. The last thing we want is somebody to evaluate it as 100 and another one as a 0. So we try to make sure, and so we give them a narrative description of what our expectation is for technical superiority, excellent versus medium or poor there. That's a element. The quality of personnel evaluation guide is generally this is always high rated because people spend some time putting their resumes together, showing that the skill sets that are going to be working on this job are the appropriate ones. And just as an aside, if you're a good software person but you've never done anything on an aircraft carrier and you're writing a proposal on aircraft carrier software in the attack center, well, I always viewed it as to go hire somebody who's been there, maybe 10% of their time, but just to get a flavor for the environment. To show that, hey, you got great developers, but they don't know anything about Navy systems, so maybe you get a retired captain, sort of a thing to augment your staff. And the area that is an area where that is commonly missed at is commercialization. And this is 30% of the evaluated criteria. And so when we say commercialization, there are several levels of this. Well, one is if it's a Navy product, then you'd like to say, hey, we think that the landing pad, our technology will be used on submarines or carriers or whatever you think is the landing pad for that. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't it doesn't show up on a shelf at Walmart. It can do that too. But the Navy is looking to see how they're going to get their benefit. What's their return on investment for participating in SBIR as well? So that needs to be something you have to think about. What's the product? Who's the user? When would it be available? If you are working with a subcontractor like a Raytheon or a big guy, maybe who's a prime that you see your product being implemented by, whether it be the shipbuilder or combat system guy. And so you have to think about that one as well. So the technical areas, inside and out what you're proposing, the technologies and the applications of that. The biographies or the bios and resumes, again, you've got solid guys who are working in this technology. You just may have to look at how you can augment that staff to tailor it to what you think is your end product, and then commercialization. Think about how that's going to get landed, what you're going to do, what's your plan, who you're going to work with, and like I say, what's the schedules for it. We're going to touch on this a little later, but keyword there's one of them is business case analysis. Technical excellence is one thing, but it's often not enough, and that's why people look for better, faster, cheaper. On the other hand, if like quieting on a submarine is, there are other virtues of that, like weight, for example, as well as the performance in terms of quieting. These are some others. Have a flexible business model when you're in execution. and then like know your users, and I'll explain what actually happens, how your digital proposal ends up at somebody's desk, how it's evaluated, and then summed up, and then debriefs prepared. So I'm going to go through this a little slower, but I thought that I should at least touch on the three major areas and a couple of hints on that. So when you start hearing people talk about the different topics that are being advertised, try to look at, okay, well, what would I say or do about the commercialization, so I can make sure I get a good score there, as well as the technical and the bios of the folks who are working on it.